Eli Weston had always been a man of charm. He wore confidence like a tailored suit, and his eyes held the glint of someone who had seen many hearts and broken a few. In his 20s, he passed through relationships like seasons, brief, beautiful, and always fading. But as time went on, what started as flirtation and fun turned into a compulsion. By the time Eli turned 32, he had become addicted, not just to women, but to the attention, the chase, the feeling of being wanted. He needed it the way some people needed alcohol or money or applause. He didn't love women, not truly. He loved how they made him feel. Powerful, important, desired. In his downtown apartment, his phone buzzed constantly. Messages, late-night calls, flirtatious photos. He had 3 dating apps and a list of names he barely remembered. For Eli, every woman was a mirror reflecting back his own ego. Every conquest a notch on the belt of his insecurity. Eli worked in advertising, where charisma was currency and seduction was strategy. His co-workers joked about his rotation, but behind the smirks were raised eyebrows. He dated clients, assistants, even a barista who made him a latte with a heart in the foam. He'd tell them he felt something real, then vanish days later. There were moments when guilt pricked at him, especially when he saw how his abrupt disappearances left some women teary-eyed or angry. But guilt was fleeting, like a hangover he knew would pass. He always justified it. They'll get over it. I never promised anything. But he wasn't just breaking hearts. He was breaking himself, quietly, steadily. Each new fling was less satisfying than the last. His relationships became shorter, his interests more fickle. Intimacy felt hollow. After sex, he'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, already thinking about the next woman. It was around this time that Eli met Samira. She wasn't like the others. Didn't laugh too loudly at his jokes. Didn't lean into his compliments like a sunflower to the sun. She had eyes that looked through him, not at him. A poet, a painter, an observer of people. She saw things in him he tried to hide, and that terrified him. At first, he thought he could play the same game. He pulled out all the moves, the charming texts, the surprise flowers, the rooftop dinner. But Samira didn't melt. She studied. She listened. And slowly, Eli found himself talking more than seducing. "I don't think you know what you're looking for," she told him once, after they spent hours talking on her balcony. "You want women to save you from something you won't admit." Her words stuck with him like a thorn under the skin. Instead of changing, Eli ran. He ghosted Samira the next week and dove headfirst into a spree of dates. 5 in 1 week, 2 in 1 day. He felt desperate to drown the self-awareness she had stirred up in him. He didn't want to confront himself. He wanted distraction, affirmation, escape. But the distractions were wearing thin. During a party one night, he kissed a woman in a bathroom and forgot her name an hour later. He left early, drunk and empty, and threw up on the sidewalk. That night, for the first time in years, he cried, not for a woman, but for himself. He didn't know what he was mourning. Maybe his youth, maybe his dignity, maybe the realization that all his pursuits had brought him no closer to love. In the following weeks, Eli started therapy, not because he wanted to, but because something had broken, and he didn't know how to fix it. "I don't think I know how to love," he confessed in session. "I just know how to be wanted." His therapist, an older woman with kind eyes, nodded. "That's not uncommon. Being wanted feels good. But love, real love, requires being seen. And you spent most of your life hiding behind desire." Together, they dug deep into his past, his parents' cold marriage, the way his mother only showed affection when he succeeded, how he equated love with performance, how each relationship had been a stage, and he the actor afraid of the curtains falling. He reached out to some of the women he had hurt, apologies, real ones. Some replied with silence, others with relief, a few with anger. But he didn't expect forgiveness. He just wanted to stop running. Months passed. Eli deleted the apps, dated less, read more, sat in silence, learned to be alone without feeling unloved. He reconnected with Samira, not to rekindle things, but to thank her. "You showed me the mirror," he said over coffee. She smiled. "You just finally looked into it." Eventually, Eli did meet someone new. Her name was Lila, and she was gentle in a way that made him feel safe rather than powerful. He didn't rush it. He didn't chase. He listened, learned, showed up honestly, and for the first time, he didn't feel like he was performing. He was just Eli flawed, learning real, and that, at last, was enough. It had been 14 months since Eli Weston last used a dating app. 14 months since his life had revolved around the next conquest, the next hit of affection. Therapy was still a weekly ritual. His phone, once a dopamine slot machine, now buzzed far less, and he liked it that way. Lila, the woman he'd begun seeing months ago, was unlike anyone he'd known. Not because she was dramatically different, but because he was. She didn't need to dazzle him, and he didn't need to win her. They met at a mutual friend's book launch. Quietly, gently, and the connection had built itself like a slow fire. No chasing, no games, but the fire, while real, brought its own heat. Because staying in love, Eli was learning, required a different set of muscles than falling into it. At first, things were good, peaceful, even. They cooked dinners together, took walks, argued without screaming. He introduced her to his therapist after one particularly difficult session where he admitted, "I don't know how to trust stability. It feels foreign." But 3 months in, the old itch returned, not for a person, but for the feeling. The rush, the flirtation, the validation. At a cafe, a woman flirted with him, touching his arm lightly as she laughed. It wasn't sexual, not exactly, but for Eli it was dangerous. He felt the pull, like muscle memory trying to resurrect an old ghost. That night, he couldn't sleep. He didn't act on it, but the temptation shook him. He confessed it to Lila a few days later. "I didn't do anything," he said, eyes low, "but I wanted to. Not because I want someone else, but because I'm afraid of being boring, ordinary." Lila took a long breath. "I'd rather have your honesty than your perfection." Relationships, Eli was realizing, had less to do with fairy tale magic and more to do with persistence. Showing up on days when love felt less like fire and more like routine. The first time he and Lila had a real fight, over something trivial like missed plans and miscommunication, his instinct was to flee, run, restart, reset. It's easier. He didn't. He stayed, sat on the couch, clenched his fists and listened while she cried. Then he cried too, not from guilt, but from fear. Fear of failing again. Fear of breaking something he actually cared about this time. "I don't know how to be in a relationship that lasts," he admitted. "I only know how to leave before I get hurt. And what if staying hurts too?" Lila asked quietly. "Then I'll learn to bleed with you," he said. On his 1-year therapy anniversary, Eli's therapist asked a simple question. "Do you still see women as a way to define your worth?" He paused, thought about it. "No," he said, "not anymore. Now I see them as people." That moment didn't erase his past. It didn't undo the women he'd used or the ones he'd broken, but it marked a turning point, from healing into living. Later that night, he wrote a letter, not to send, but to reflect. "To the women I hurt. I didn't love you because I didn't love myself. I saw you as saviors, trophies, distractions. You deserve better. I'm becoming a man who might one day be worthy of someone like you." He folded the letter and put it in a box with his old photos, old numbers, and his last dating app profile. Uninstalled but never deleted. A reminder of who he was, and who he chose not to be anymore. One rainy night, after a slow dinner and an argument about Eli's tendency to shut down when overwhelmed, Lila reached for his hand. "I know it's hard," she said, "but you don't have to do it alone." He squeezed her hand, not tightly, but enough to mean something. "I don't want to run anymore," he said, "even when it's hard, especially then." The words didn't fix everything, but they were real. And for someone like Eli, who had lived behind masks for most of his adult life, they meant everything. Eli didn't become perfect. He still wrestled with ego, temptation, the urge to be admired. But he no longer chased women to feel whole. He chased truth. He chased love. And most importantly, he stayed, not because it was easy, but because he finally understood something he'd never known in his years of addiction. Wanting love is not the same as being ready to give it. Now, at last, he was